Hello and welcome to Words Matter podcast from Krita AI. In this podcast, we meet HR leaders, analysts, AI experts, and policy experts across the globe to discuss all things about HR and AI for HR. There is a lot of discussion going around what will be the impact of the new age generative AI technology on every function in the enterprise. This includes talent acquisition teams also. How far will generative AI go in taking over these key functions of talent marketing, recruitment, and sourcing is something that the whole industry is debating. How will the new workflows look like? What does the change look like? And to discuss all of that, today we have gotten a fantastic guest, Vanessa, and welcome, Vanessa, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Taking out the time.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I always like to give my advice on podcasts, and it was amazing when you asked me to be a guest. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Quick introduction to Vanessa. Vanessa is globally renowned for her contributions to international sourcing community. She has delivered keynotes across 3 continents and has trained teams based from Auckland to Seattle. Vanessa launched her talent sourcing training business in early 2019 and has not looked back. She's a qualified teacher with experience in both agency recruiting and internal talent acquisition and loves both these roles, I'm told. She now gets to combine her love for empowering others to do better with her passion for recruiting through her online academy. She loves it when her training delegates experience that light bulb moment, and she knows that she has just changed someone's career for the better. When Vanessa is not doing research in her training, recording content, or delivering a keynote, you can find her at the beach in the South African bushveld taking photographs. Fantastic. So this is super exciting. So before we talk about generative AI for talent acquisition, I would like you to give us a state of affairs picture. How did people acquire and attract and recruit talent before Gen AI?
Okay, good. So this is such an interesting question. I mean, you're asking someone who's been in the game for 20 years of recruitment. So things have changed a lot. I mean, when I started 20 years ago, it was literally, get an advert, put it in a local newspaper or on a website and get people to often phone it and apply. Some recruiters even go back as far as the fax machine. And one thing for certain that you can tell from this recruitment industry is that the only consistent is change. So yes, generative AI has come and it's allowed us to do certain things quicker, but I don't think too much has changed as yet, because I still think that there's a lot of people working in the recruitment industry who are reluctant to fully rely on AI. So I think people are still doing pretty much the same things until the right solution that really works for their business comes into play. So I think what we're seeing at the moment in the recruitment industry is a lot of people still looking at platforms like LinkedIn, trying to hire people, looking at local job boards, and maybe using the AI integration tools on those particular platforms.
Fantastic. And in the before generative AI world, can you think of a few things that people were not able to do till generative AI came about, or like unmet needs that you can think about?
So some of the ways that I can think that I've seen recruiters using it, and I've been delivering a lot of workshops, is that recruiters are using it to build frameworks. So instead of sitting at a blank screen, if they want to put together an email or they want to put together a blog post, they could go into generative AI and say, I need to write a blog about this. Can you give me a framework? That's one of the ways. I see a lot of recruiters using it badly, where they're asking generative AI to, completely generate that blog post from beginning to end and just copying and pasting it and passing it off as their own work. So for me, it's an interesting tool here, because generative AI is great if it's used correctly. And I often use the analogy of giving a toddler a loaded gun. I think the best way that I see recruiters out there using AI is that the recruiters who are at the top of their game are using it to do their heavy lifting. So for example, myself, if I'm building a Boolean search string, I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to ask it to generate other job titles that I could be adding to my Boolean search string. I'm not going to say to it and be lazy and say, write the search string for me, and then that's the only thing that I'm going to use. So I think what we're going to start seeing in our industry is we're going to start seeing the good recruiters using it to be better, but we can also see how maybe some of the bad recruiters are using it to literally sink themselves and to destroy whatever brand they've put out there. Because if you're only posting content that's been generated by AI, everyone kind of knows that, because no one speaks like ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, the use of the phrase loaded gun is a little bit apt. I mean, while you do use generative AI, there are cautions as well.
Yes, exactly.
So
But some
did you
people aren't
deliberately
taking
use
heed.
that phrase? And I would love you to elaborate why loaded gun, and why not, like, it could have been any other analogy, but you used loaded gun. So
Because it's dangerous, isn't it? I mean, a loaded gun is a dangerous weapon. And I think generative AI is dangerous in lazy people's hands. So if people are using generative AI to do everything for them, write emails, put together blogs, put together LinkedIn posts, sending messages out to candidates, and not doing one bit of personalization to that final message, I think is dangerous. Because you also want to remember that you're dealing with another human being in the recruitment industry. It's a human to human relationship. And you are going to foster and build those relationships, which are going to turn, individual relationships are going to turn into communities and networks based on who you are as a human being. So if you're handing over the power to generative AI to go and generate all of these messages and these emails, then who are you at the end of the day? What value are you bringing to the table?
Yeah. And in addition, of course, companies also have concerns around data privacy, data security. Then there are questions around unconscious bias that can, I mean, ChatGPT or any other platform is as good as the content you feed, and the content in general available in the internet has its own biases. So there are issues around unconscious biases. There are compliance related issues. So that's why I resonated with that phrase loaded gun very, very well.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think that there's not enough information about it. Like, there's so many gray areas. Like, where do we stand with GDPR? Where do we stand with like personal protection acts? What do we stand? Where do we stand the data? And no one seems to be really making a call about it. So it could all implode very quickly.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about your own introduction to generative AI, and how did you get familiarized and excited about it? How did you start using it? I would love to hear your own journey there.
My journey. So basically, in January this year, when I came back after taking leave, I had a very big task ahead of me. I had put aside 3 months. I had to build an online academy. I had to put 3 days worth of training online. And the problem was, while I was busy recording videos and putting together content, everyone was talking about generative AI, ChatGPT, it was everywhere. So I couldn't do anything for January, February, and March. But March, once I launched my online academy, I thought, right, let me go and have a look. And I ended up getting really sucked into the whole AI vibe, but in a good way. I actually delivered about 45 workshops to date around AI for recruiters. They were 2-hour workshops. They were great to run, but I kept on changing the content because it was updating all the time. So my personal journey started with the visual side. So I started taking some of the photos on my phone. I started using, generative AI from an art perspective. I looked at Lensa, and I looked to generate, myself looking slightly different than what I had submitted. I then went on to, the image generators of DALL-E 2 and Midjourney and played around with those. And then I got into ChatGPT, and that's when I realized that it could, if the tool is used correctly, it could be an incredible time saver. I was actually on the verge of trying to organize a virtual assistant. And I've realized with ChatGPT, I haven't had to do that. So it has taken away a lot of the admin roles that I've had to do in the past with me being a solopreneur and running my own business. So it was an interesting journey. As I say, it resulted in me setting up AI workshops because I think the possibilities are quite endless. The one thing I would say, though, is where I see a lot of people, and recruiters in particular, going wrong is that they get totally immersed in AI, but they don't know what they're trying to do because they don't know the problem they're trying to solve. So I always say to them, don't rush into it. Don't go and familiarize yourself with every single tool. Go and think about the problem, what's happening on your desk, what's happening in your business, and find an AI tool to solve that. And that works for me.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So you played around with the system, you learned it, then you started using it for your own use. How did you start helping your customers and people who reach out to you? Do you have any story or any success story or anything to share? That would be wonderful.
So basically what I did was I put together these AI workshops, and people were coming to me saying that all we hear is ChatGPT and AI, and we actually don't know how to use the tools successfully. So can you help us? So it was all about identifying the problem. So I had a situation where I had a client who was trying to generate CVs in a new format. So we looked at different generative AI kind of texts and examples. Sorry, I'm going to have to take this cat outside because that's the joy of recording. Hold on a second. Let me just shut the window so it can't get back in again. Okay. Right. Oh, and this is so now she won't disturb him.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yes, I think a lot of people battle with AI, and they don't know how it fits in or how to fit it into their business. But I can use myself as an example. And I was approached by a company in Europe, and they had 50 recruiters that were part of a team of 200, and they wanted to put them through my academy. Now, those 50 people were based in France. They were French speaking, and they wanted to do the training in French. So I managed to find an AI tool that actually took my training videos and put up French subtitles while I was actually delivering the training. So that solved that problem. But I've had customers come to me with many different situations of where they needed help with something. And I said, well, have you tried, AI, even down to being able to write job adverts and reorganize role descriptions and write an analysis or a summary of candidates once they've put information into the system. So again, it boils down to what is the problem? How can AI help you to solve this?
Fantastic. So when companies do look at adopting Gen AI into their workflows, what are some of the common problems that you have seen where Gen AI does a brilliant job? Yeah, I would love to first explore that before we go into other aspects.
Okay. So I think the biggest thing and the key word you said there was adoption, is it's trying to get the whole team on board. So what I see in a lot of instances is there's one person in a recruiting team or a talent acquisition team that's really big on AI, and they want to go in and pay for all the tools and install all of them. And everyone else is like, I don't actually need this. So it's about identifying, again, what does the whole team need? Because if people don't need it, they're not going to use generative AI. If people don't want to use it. So it's that whole change management piece that goes around introducing a new software, a new system, a new way of doing things. It's always a lot more difficult from the change management side as opposed to, actually getting it implemented and up and running. Trying to get people to use something new is a challenge.
Actually, that is something that we experience also, that the initial demos and the trials go through all right, but it is, okay, now to make it enterprise ready, there is a path that companies need to go through, the change management that you spoke about. What are some of the best practices you have seen companies adapt or changes they have made to their process to bring this generative AI as a co-pilot into their teams?
So I mean, let's face it, since COVID, everything's been done online. I mean, everyone's using video, but people aren't utilizing that video effectively enough. So, I mean, a lot of recruiters are spending, a lot of time interviewing candidates on a Zoom call or on a Teams meeting or Google Hangouts. And the same with their clients. I mean, they're meeting with hiring managers. And they're not recording those sessions, because once you record those sessions, there's so much you can do with them from an AI perspective. So to give you an example, you've got an interview with a candidate. If you record it, you can cut that up. You can have snippets that you can then refer to the client along with their CV. You can also have that video transcribed. You can also put subtitles onto it. It just is a way to stand out as a recruiter, that when you're submitting a CV, and even the CV, does it have to be in a Word format? Does it have to be in a PDF? What about using some AI generators to create a really good looking CV these days? And I think that people need to start thinking out of the box a bit, because we now have these tools. They're not hugely expensive, because a lot of these companies are startups and they actually need the people going through the tool so that they can make some changes and they can do some tweaks. I think that people aren't fully taking advantage of these things.
Fantastic. So you covered one aspect of a problem that Gen AI can solve well, is video interviews and summarizing, snipping some of the most relevant pieces.
Yep.
That is great. You also spoke about how CVs or high quality CVs can be generated. You spoke about how job descriptions and versions can be done. What are some of how have you seen people use Gen AI for, let's say, employer branding or marketing? Have you seen any of those use cases?
So I've actually seen, and I've done it myself, is taking some text off of websites, putting it into ChatGPT and saying, make this sound different, make it sound more professional, add this in. What would be your opinion? Could we make this shorter, make this 300 words? So I think from a marketing employer branding perspective, a lot of that is driven by content and the content that is generated. And I think a lot of people are using ChatGPT to generate that content. My only advice with people doing that is you've got to prompt more. So I see a lot of people putting in one prompt. It's maybe actually not even enough information. And by putting in that one prompt, they're generating a bit of text as a result. Now, a lot of people just take that text, and what they do is they then kind of put it onto a website, put it onto a newsletter, whatever it is they've generated it for. But if you keep prompting and say, hold on, you forgot to add this in, please add it in. Or if you were to say, please remove this paragraph, it's not relevant to us. Or it might be too long, because whatever ChatGPT generates is often very long and long-winded. So you could then say to it, actually make this 500 words as opposed to 700.
So it doesn't take away your responsibility as an editor or as a reviewer of that content. And you can use ChatGPT more like a good copywriter. I'm trying to simplify it, but like how you would give your review comments to a copy that arrives on your table. Interesting.
And I think that that's the important piece there, is that you still got to have your own tone and your own voice. So use it as someone to put a second set of eyes over it. Like me, I'm a solopreneur. I don't have anyone on my team. I can say, just read through this and let me know what you think. So I can sometimes ask ChatGPT what they think.
Yeah. The other earlier in the recording, you spoke about personalization. That is, I believe, is going to be fundamentally, that's going to be the differentiator between one content and another content, right? Have you what have you seen companies or people do well by using AI, but keeping the brand and the personalization aspects intact?
So I see a lot of people generating emails, but that isn't their final copy. That's like a 75% template. So when people do that and they've got all of the information that doesn't normally change, like about the role, about the client, but then they take that, let's say 70% information, and they add to it. And what they add in is the personalization. So they mention things like maybe a certificate that this person's achieved, maybe something they've done on LinkedIn Learning, maybe a project they were involved in, maybe a conference they spoke at, and they add all of these in. So you've got lots of personalization touch points interspersed with the skeleton or the templated message that you've created. Now, when recruiters take the time to do that, because it takes time. You've got to go and research the candidate across other platforms. You see someone on LinkedIn, that's not everything about the person. Run a Google check through them, mention something, maybe a blog they wrote, maybe a video they put together, and those kind of things. And I think that those recruiters who are going the extra mile to add in the personalization are getting the higher response rate. And I think that that's what, well, I know that's what we're aiming for, because in a scarce skilled global economy at the moment, everyone's fighting over skills. So you've got one shot to send a good message to a good candidate. Let's make sure that it counts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So as organizations think of adapting Gen AI, where do they start? Let's say I just, I've heard this, I've done it for some of my personal use, but at a company level, it would be great to know, how do people start?
Okay, so for me, again, it's not starting with the end in sight. So deciding on a software, it's what is the problem? Why do we need Gen AI? And what are we trying to solve? So I think if you can get your head around that, because a lot of people, when you talk about AI, they go straight to ChatGPT. They also go straight to OpenAI's ChatGPT. They don't realize, you've got Claude, you've got Bard, you've got U.com. I saw another one this morning. They got so many different platforms that are popping up. It's about, and this is where I think there's going to be a gap in the market, and there's going to be a role for people to be AI advisors, because these are the people that are going to really sit down like a business analyst, try and understand what the business is trying to achieve, dissect it, ask all the right questions, and then go and match it to the correct AI tool.
Yep.
So there's going to be a lot of jobs coming up in the future around being an AI expert, because, again, we don't know what we don't know. So we don't know if we're missing out on something because we don't know it exists.
Yeah. There's also the other aspect that already the HR people have a lot of software on their tech, right? They're already using many software. So if the problem is not very well defined and the problem is not very well researched, then this will be yet another thing that you will try. It will probably be in isolation. It may not integrate with all the things that you already have.
Yes.
It will only lead to wastage. That's what I have seen also.
Yeah, 100%. And I completely agree with that. I mean, it's like you've got a different tool for your email outreach, and then there's a different CRM which doesn't talk to the other platforms. No, it's a nightmare, and you can get too bogged down in your tech, and it's an expensive exercise.
Fantastic. So last question, what is the one advice that you'll give TA teams thinking about adapting generative AI in their company? It's the same question, but it's just, if there was one advice,
One advice: do your homework. And my thinking behind that is that it could be a very expensive mistake. If you don't do your homework, if you don't say, give me a free trial, you get the whole team trying it for a week or a month or whatever you get, but do your homework, because is it the best solution for the problem that you are trying to solve? Because when your team looks at you and you say, I've got a new tool, I'm introducing something new, their immediate thought is, oh no, not another one. Because I've worked in teams where you have access to all of the tools in the world, but at the end of the day, recruiting boils down to that human-to-human connection. And that is not something that generative AI can do.
Fantastic. So Vanessa, how can people reach you? And if they would like to talk to you, engage with you, it would be wonderful if you can share your coordinates.
Great. Thanks for that. My coordinates. I like that. I like the way you've said that. So I'm not difficult to find. I'm on LinkedIn. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. I also have my own website, which is vanessaraath.com. And if anyone wants to do any free training, you can go to academy.vanessaraath.com. And I have got free training in my online academy there, which you're welcome to have a look at. And then again, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram at @van_Raath. So there's really no excuse for finding me, because I'm there.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa, for sharing your experience. As we know, this technology is growing at a supersonic speed, and it will have a disruptive influence on every workflow in the organization in the next few years. The change has already started. And all the work you're doing to help companies tide over and this change and adapt this technology is hugely appreciated. Thank you for sharing all your insights with the community.
Thanks, Kesavan. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor to be a guest on your podcast, and I wish you all the best with your future endeavors in the AI field.
Thank you.